sorry. Totally brain farting. So this is One versus the Other. My name is Lindsay.
My name is Kit.
And today we're reacting to something that actually someone recommended in the comments, which was...
They highly recommend this one.
Yeah, well, not this particular video, but this person. It's a video on Jordan Peterson. I particularly like Jordan Peterson. I don't obviously agree with everything he says, but I do enjoy the way he speaks. I enjoy the way he conveys his message, and my mom is actually the one that put me on Jordan Peterson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she sent me a video where he was like... this person is going through all these horrible things. Like, instead of saying, like, oh, things will get better, chin up, like, look at all the positives. He was like, no, that sounds like your life sucks. But guess what? It can only get better from here if you actually try. So it was something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was valid. It's like, if things suck, why don't you admit they suck so that they can get better? And I kind of enjoy that concept, like, being realistic.
I can see that. Like, I actually enjoy Jordan Peterson way better.
Mm-hmm.
For, like, he's a really...
in the manosphere, whatever that means.
I don't know what's that mean. I really don't. But I feel like Jordan Peterson he's a really good speaker. He has a really well presented, like, he know how to present himself.
Well, I mean, considering he has, like, decades of experience as a professor. So, like... it does make sense why he's so good at speaking. But then there's, like, some professors that fucking suck.
Yeah, I don't know
like,
what you're talking about.
He's, like, the epitome of what we think a good professor speaks like. But I had some shitty-ass, like, teachers.
You just never done their research and just like,
Yeah, like, he reminds me of my AP economics teacher in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told you once how he did, like, he wanted to teach us how people fell for fascism and on top of that communism, and he did a whole speech for like 10 minutes, and by the end of it, like, people were like standing up clapping in my classroom being like, yeah, communism. Woo! And then, like, people were all excited because he talked about how, like, doesn't it suck when people are taking from you and things like that. And so and he just, like, he spoke so eloquently. My teacher, my AP economics teacher, I still remember his name too. I wonder if he still works there. Anyways, he did so well that everyone was like, yeah, like, let's go for communism. Like, this is great. And then he was like, no. And then he, like, gave all the evidence why communism, like, fails. And technically, like, my family comes from, like, a failed communist area, like, at one point. Not fully, obviously, like, America. They put a dictatorship in charge. I don't know if people really... like, they call it a democracy, but really, when you pay the poor people to, like, vote for you, is that really a democracy?
Russia.
I mean, if anyone knows what's going on in Nicaragua, you know. But, like, honestly, like, it's a story for a different day.
Yeah. Alright, we take a look. Jordan Peterson confronts Australian politician on gender politic in quotes.
Quotas.
I don't know.
I chose this specifically for... well, I thought you would like to hear what he has to say.
Okay. I don't even know what's the Australian gender policy in quotas.
Yeah, they probably go over it.
Oh, okay.
But here.
Luther King's dream was that there would come a time when people would not be judged by the colour of their skin but by the content of their character. How is today's identity politics consistent with that vision?
Jordan Peterson.
Well, I don't think it's consistent with that vision at all. I mean, the problem I have with identity politics as a mode of philosophical apprehension is that it's predicated on the idea that the appropriate way to classify people is by their group identity, in whatever fragmentary formulation that might take, in the multiplicity of ways that people can be divided into groups. And the classical, postmodern, and I would also say Marxist way.
So I'm assuming what Jordan Peterson is saying is that everyone would be identified by their persona, like their personality, not by their looks, right? But how is that possible if you don't know someone's personality? Like, you don't right off the bat know what someone is like until you actually engage with them, which means you wouldn't be able to succeed for a while because someone would have to figure out who you are before those decisions are made. Like, everything would be based off your resume and what people have referenced on about you. But what if you're getting your first leg in the door? No one's gonna listen to you.
Interesting.
I mean, that's my interpretation. Maybe I'm completely off, but I think there's a little bit something wrong with that. Right? Because, like, you could look at someone that has, like, a decent resume, right, for a job, but then someone else who has, you know, not the greatest resume, like, they don't have all the accolades, but it's still as beautifully presented as the other person. And this one person comes in slightly, like, not professional, but the other one took the time to, like, present themselves, you know, put them together, clasp their hands, and, like, take the time to be engaging, professional, and the other one is quite arrogant. Wouldn't you care for the person that's more presented themselves well?
Yeah.
And that's a visual thing. But then there's also, like, I'm kind of confused by it because it, like, that also has to do with someone's persona that they're putting forth, because there's arrogance in the way someone acts. Like, if someone sits like this and then someone sits like this, it's two completely different things.
I think I have an entirely my understanding of the guy was asking how far was so different from right now and the Martin Luther King's region.
Are you talking about, like, when it comes to race?
Because in the Martin Luther King said that they are all gender equal and always equal, like no cut, like it's not based individual is not based on color or anything. I think individualism, that's where it was.
Maybe. To be honest, I don't know much about Martin Luther King's vision or theory. I don't think a lot of people have actually read up. People will say that they understand because they remember I Have a Dream speech, where, like, white people and black people can come together. You know, like, a lot of us grew up listening to that speech, but, like, how many of us have actually read his writings, listened to all his speeches to see what he actually meant? Because I will tell you, I have not.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to tell anyone what MLK's, like, dream was because I'm not educated in it at all. Does that make sense? Like, we're all loosely educated in the American system, but, like, loose education, you can't act like you're arrogant about the information when you barely know shit. There's a difference between going into the tide where it goes, like, your toes are only in the water compared to, like, when you're waist in or, like, neck in to the water. You get completely different sensations and information.
Yeah, I think
that's why to answer you what
but I mean, ain't that was the question of the guy was pointing out, like, how far-fetched of the idea right now.
I guess, like, how far are we based off that? Like, do you think that we're close to what MLK wanted?
Yeah, that's what my interpretation of what his question is. And then
no, but do you agree? Do you believe that we are closer to what or are we close to the dream in which MLK?
Just like you mentioned, we're not entirely educated on what his dream actually is. From my understanding is. Like,
from your understanding, do you? Because I don't.
From my understanding is all they like equal. It's just all human equal.
I know, but the problem is that when I think equal, I don't see equal when I go out, right? Like I hear a lot because a lot of people don't know, like, I'm whatever. I grew up mostly with my Hispanic side. I hear a lot like, oh, you're pretty decent for a white person.
You're not white though.
No, sorry. No, but, like, do you get where it's like as long as we make comments like that means that you, when you first met me, like, you were equating me to just the color of my skin. Where it's like, You were equating, just like how black people feel. They feel like their people are interpreting them in a specific way. Like, I have no problem with it. Like, I don't really engage with those people after they say those types of things. I'm just like, cool. Like, I don't really hang out with people, so this is great. But I don't think we're close to it, because now we're trying to define like the subsidies of each individual struggle that each person has had. How about we just, equality would mean that like everyone has had shitty moments. Some have had it better than others. Some have been born in a better situation than others. Can't really change that, because those people didn't choose where they were born.
I think in the equal sense of this is the biggest scheme of scale. It's not like it's the basic human right. Like everybody eligible for the basic human right. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think in that sense, like, if we're talking about equal human rights, like, does everyone get education? Yes. Does everyone get the same education? No. But does everyone have the ability to possibly, at least in America, we're only talking in America, does everyone have the capability of probably going to a library to at least,
somewhat educate yourself?
Yeah, like you could do the research. Yeah, all those resources are there for free. Do people take the initiative to do that though? No.
That's individualism. Like, it's up to you. Like, at the end of the day, you're still you. Like, nobody can.
But are we born with like some basic sense of equality? I guess kind of, but at the same time, no, I would say, because like, and at least in America, like, does everyone get healthcare coverage where when you give birth, your parents are on equal footing? No. But like, that's just life. Everyone goes through struggles. Like, and that's been since the dawn of time. We can't make it like a communist era where everyone gets equal, everyone gets the same.
This is kind of like utopia for...
Yeah. I don't believe in utopia. I think that's like a fantasy. It's a fantasy I don't want.
It's a fantasy politician.
Yeah. Stay away.
Even though those two things shouldn't be allowed together, they tend to be, is that group identity takes priority over individual identity, and I think that's precisely the opposite of what Martin Luther King was hoping for and working for. And I think it's unbelievably dangerous, partly because when you assume that people should primarily be identified by their group, then you can also attribute group guilt to them by their group. And then things go downhill very, very rapidly. And we've had no shortage.
That was so true. That was so true about group guilt. Like, a lot of people didn't want to mention it, didn't want to say it. For example, if I see a other Asian person that start working lazy and such, people will assume, oh, okay, all the Asian people just lazy. All Asian people just stupid, or whatever the scenario is.
Well, a common stereotype. I'll give a common stereotype because my mom grew up in a very, at least in America, because when she went to school, when she immigrated over, she went to a school that was predominantly Asian, right? And it was in an area where either their families were Asian or people would like send their children over to get an American education really young. And the stereotype that my mom always experienced, well, first of all, they didn't like her because she was Hispanic and because she didn't speak English. It's just, it was like the 80s, like this normal, right? People didn't like her because she was Hispanic. So what? Like, it didn't stop her from being extremely successful, right? But she said, like, an issue she always had with a large group of Asians at her school was that they would, even though she couldn't speak English, she still was able to petition to get to the highest form of math, to get into higher math. They treated her like she was dumb, but they were always cheating off her math tests. Everyone. Like, and she said that it was really, really common for everyone to cheat off each other. Like, none of them worked off their own ethic. They would all like, oh, you got this answer, you got that, even when the teacher told you. Like, that was the experience my mom had. I'm not saying this for everyone, but like, because like a large group that she grew up with did that. You know, that stereotype comes to your brain constantly.
But that's what Jordan Peterson had mentioned, the group guilt. Because one person doing this type of stuff, even
if a group is doing it, it's not everyone in the whole world. It's just one school. Like, if that makes sense?
yeah.
No, so I agree with you.
I agree with you, and I also agree with what he said. Like, this is like a lot of people didn't pay attention. I'm guilty, totally guilty of it. When somebody in the group that did something, then we have assumed gender for this group of people is gonna be doing this. And it's awakening. Like, you have to constantly catch yourself on the eggs to think like that.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect that, like, when it comes to Hispanic being, like, people that immigrate over being, like, lazy and all these other things, right?
Really?
That's a huge stereotype. Like, I don't think it's particularly true because I've only met, like, extremely hardworking Hispanics. Like in my personal experience, like, that is my experience. Like, my mom is very hardworking, all her siblings, right? The one thing no one will ever, people can say a ton of things about them, right? All my uncles, like, not positive things, but the one thing they will always say, they are always the hardest working person, right? Work ethic is extremely important. But like a lot of them are like, oh, they're trying to mooch off you. Oh, no, it's like something that they would talk about on the news. Like, they're gonna live off like government subsidies and stuff like that. And so when my mom sees like a Hispanic doing that like has immigrated over, my mom gets like super embarrassed and like extreme shame. Like, she was just like, I don't want to associate with this person because it's like, you're making us all look bad. You as an individual are making us look bad.
But that's exactly the same thing. The group guilt is coming in. Like, no matter you're the one to feel embarrassed or the other person feel like, if I did something wrong, then my whole group felt embarrassed.
No, I completely agree with you.
Of evidence of that sort of thing happening, say, throughout the 20th century.
Are there particular groups that you are more concerned about than others? For example, the Liberal Party, as Terry Butler said earlier, is a group. Are there groups that you think are more dangerous?
There isn't a problem with groups. The problem is with assuming that the fundamental way that you should categorize people is with their group identity. Obviously, we all belong to groups. The issue is whether or not the individual identity is primary and the group identity is secondary.
That makes so much sense. Do you identify yourself as who you are as an individual, or do you identify yourself by one thing that has to do with a group identity? Like, do you identify as yourself as Kit, or do you identify as a female feminist? Because a lot of people would be like, my identity is shaped by one individual thing, compared to, no, my identity is shaped by who I am as an individual.
No, you're part of. I get what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying too. Nobody's supposed to be like, I am this.
But I think that what Jordan Peterson is saying is that people make the mistake of identifying themselves by their group, not by their individuality, and I would agree with that.
It's like A bigger than B. Like, that's what more meant right now. Like,
yeah, like an individual, like tiny circle or big circle. It's the tiny circle.
Your individualism, so like your individuality is supposed to be the bigger one, because all the group, you can be so many part of the group. Like, not each single one of the group can entirely identify who you are as you.
I completely agree.
Identity is primary and the individual identity is secondary. If you're a proponent, for example, of equality of outcome, of quotas, then you de facto accept the proposition that it's the group identity that is primary, and there's all sorts of dangers that are associated with that far.
I totally agree with that. Like, for instance,
Sign my photograph.
no, there's the aspect that, okay, so I don't know if you've heard of this in like feminism. There's something people feel, there's two different things, there's different things people want in feminism, right? There's quantity, right? Or being equal, right? But technically, not everyone wants equity. Equity being the amount of people that are in a job hire position, right? So in our field, there's not a lot of women. Let's be honest, right? But the equity is that they want to try to make it 50% women, 50% men. But you can't guarantee in society that 50% of women actually want to be the 50% of men in one individual job description. That's not equality, because a woman should choose what she wants to do and a man should be able to choose what he wants to do. It should be
Individual.
and equal, right? Because when I go for a job interview against a guy, I want to know that I won, like I got this position because I was better than you, not because you have to fill the number of being a woman. Does that make sense? Like, and so this is my problem with a lot of feminism, is that a lot of them want the equity of equal, not equality, which is the individual gets to make the choice, right? You have the freedom to choose what you want to do.
That's right. Like, you ever seen our video for the feminist reaction on feminism, that we did not really agree a lot of what the modern feminists, I mean, by basically definition of the dictionary form, it's just saying that you have
equality, not equity, not the amount of number of people within a job position or whatever, but like
you have the choice.
Equality. Yeah, you have the choice to choose what you want to do. Yeah,
nobody
no one forces you.
Yeah, I
You did, like, that's why I'm just like, I was like, I can co-sign that. Like, I agree with
co-sign.
You're likely to do.
Okay,
Well, maybe you just.
Go ahead.
Or maybe you just think that representative democracy should be representative. Maybe you just think that women should be equally represented in the decision-making fora of our nation. Maybe that's really just about having proper equality in a body that's meant to be representative.
I don't understand what she's saying.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't understand. But I do. What I do want to point out is that I do appreciate that Jordan Peterson is like really listening to what she's saying. Do you notice how he's like really looking down to think of what she's saying? Because I honestly don't understand what she's trying to say. Like, what do you mean representative of equality? Like, it sounds like a bunch of it doesn't make sense what she's saying. I don't understand.
Maybe she will explain a little bit further.
Hopefully.
I do believe that women should have. I don't understand your question, I guess.
I guess you
Yeah.
don't. That's pretty obvious, unfortunately.
Well, how about if you phrase it more clearly instead of just insulting me?
Totally right, because like we don't understand what she was saying. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but like I didn't
But
understand.
he's so classy though. He was like, were you able to rephrase it? I was like,
To be more clear. But there's also the aspect that he was like, instead of insulting me, how about you rephrase it? Like, why are you... The purpose was to tear him down to make herself look more smart. And I think that's why she phrased her question that way. Right? To
I
make
don't
herself...
understand her question though.
But exactly, she's just trying to look intelligent.
Oh.
Sometimes people, to look intelligent, will just say a bunch of phrases in big, huge words that mean nothing, because I think she means fucking nothing. I don't understand what she was saying.
I did not understand.
Look at it this way. Let's talk about quotas for a minute. So there's a very wide array of jobs that are fundamentally done by men. So, for example,
Member of Parliament.
99.9% of
Sorry, Alexander,
bricklayers.
stop sledging you now, I promise.
I'm happy to give my minute to Jordan.
99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have...
She was super rude. Like, cutting him off.
She is not trying to listening to him.
No, I don't think so. I don't think she wants to listen, which I find that's very disrespectful. Like, there's a rule my husband and I have when we're discussing something that's extremely important to us, and it's possibly like we wouldn't call it an argument because we're not screaming at each other, or maybe we just argue different than other people, but we are not allowed to interrupt the other person. We are allowed to say, "You're interrupting me," and the other person shuts up. He and I both have a problem interrupting each other. So we've both told each other, like, you're interrupting me. Like, you need to shut the fuck up. Obviously, we don't say it like that. But I'll be like, I'm shutting the fuck up now. I'm like, I will check myself. Well, technically, he checks me. But then there's also the aspect I'm like, oh, you cut me off. But he also apologizes for cutting me off. Because it's disrespectful. Like, you're being rude to the person you're having a conversation with. I don't care for that.
Me neither. Especially you're trying to have an intelligent conversation. Like you try to get some result, and you try to ask a question to have an answer, right? Then why are you not listening to the answer?
I don't think she wants the answer.
That's the problem.
Is bricklaying representative democracy?
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is if there's evidence of structural inequality and oppression because women aren't precisely represented at 50% in all professions at all levels, then why don't we have a conversation about having women represented in all professions at all levels? Why do we talk about the C-suite, for example? Why do we talk about politics and positions of power? Why don't we talk about it across the board?
Okay,
We're
so
talking about
let's just
politics,
pause and...
Yeah, but that's because
We're
it's
talking about
power.
You pose a question to Terry Butler. Go ahead and answer it. Then we'll hear from the other panellists.
In fact, like in the biggest scheme of scale, actually, men have more in the world.
Like experience, like doing things, or have touched more surfaces of the world because they've had to work more than women have across time. Not in the sense of like laying brick, like doing the construction, doing everything
I mean,
to build the home.
the last generation, majority of the work is carried on by men, and then when you get teaching another person, not really a lot of female want to come up to take on those type of job.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that we have the equality now
To
choose to do it. And there's some women, like sometimes you do have to fight, right, to prove yourself because there aren't a lot of women. But I feel like it's well worth it. Like in our job, in our old job, right? Like we never like fought to get our work done, but the way we were treated by women was very different than the way we were treated by men.
Majority, I feel like mostly women will tear the other woman down.
Yeah, we had issues where like women would question our ability to do our job, and then men would just sit back and be like, "Oh shit, this is really cool. Like what you're doing is really epic in front of me." And I'm like, "Thank you. Yes, me fixing your computer is awesome."
Yeah,
We're like, but I mean, and I'm not saying this is all women, right? And I'm not saying like I've had like one or two men being like, yeah,
we do have that experience.
But like the large quantity that we've had issues with was more women questioning us than men, in my experience.
I think it's because it's a man-dominated field.
But that's the thing though. It comes with the territory. What's wrong? Even though it's a male-dominated field, like I'm okay with being questioned because I know I have the ability to do the work, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't bug me to be questioned. But you can't argue for equality and say you're a feminist.
She was saying that, like, just like Jordan Peterson had mentioned that you want
Power.
representative. You want 50-50 in every single type of job. Do you think anybody want to take those jobs, though?
Like women, I don't think a lot of women would take the initiative to do those jobs. But I think his point is you want women to have equity of power, not equity over every job position. Power position, because she kept saying politics. Bro, maybe women don't want to be in politics. Have you ever thought about that? Like the women that want to be in politics have forced their way through. They have used their ability to be strong and get through it. But not everyone wants to do it.
Yes, true.
Why don't you prop the people underneath up below you? If you want more women in the field, okay, prop up the women behind you to fight further instead of blaming. Yeah, instead of tearing someone else down or tearing, other people down, just prop your own people up, your own women up.
Yeah.
Instead of complaining, do the work.
This is a lot of part. I think Jordan Peterson had mentioned before, like the society have politicians have tried to make gender fight each other.
Yeah, I don't care for it.
It's a unity.
I think there's very different. This might be like a problem to say. I think there is a very different home when there's not two people, right? That when there's not a unit, I don't think. And then I think that it's not helpful to society to force people to pit people against each other. Like the constant pitting, like it causes more turmoil and headache. Like you just want to feed off the drama.
Yeah.
And people get addicted to the drama, so they just keep personifying it, and it's just how is this helpful? What does this do for society in any way?
We didn't change the world that have so many cracks on the road that fix the world.
I know. There's so many cracks in the road right now, and it's like we can't even fix that in California.
Yeah, and we
Like I mean, literally the cracks in the road.
yeah, it is everywhere. By the way,
Fucking everywhere. It's fucking annoying, dude. You'll see my road going up to my house tomorrow.
I'm gonna start crying. That's my problem. Like the real issue that actually make humankind like can solve and make humankind be better instead, and it's just never go forward.
If you keep fighting, yeah. But I think it's just to distract people from what they actually want to do.
Like actually do some change in the society.
I know. But yeah, wait, let's...
His question to me.
Well, yeah, if you'd,
About
like,
bricklayers.
if you'd like to answer the question about bricklayers.
There's nothing wrong with
why there are
bricklayers.
no
Of course
quotas
there's
in
not.
What's the end?
Yeah, but she was derogatory towards the question, which was a valid question. And to like, it almost seems like bricklayers, I'm not going to nitpick, but like devaluing the question that has valid standing just proves that you can't answer the question. You don't have the mental capacity, no matter how smart you speak, to actually argue the issue.
Yeah.
You can't even argue her. She couldn't argue her own point. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. I think it's the part that she didn't try to listen. Like it's okay. Like you have a different point of view. It's okay. We all think the same. We all just only one person. You know. That's what make the world different. But you're not willing to open your ears to listen to the other. You never grow.
That's true.
You don't understand the other person's point of view.
No, I completely agree. But that's the end of us today with Jordan Peterson. I love Jordan Peterson. I do listen to him a lot. But I hope that everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And
See you next time.
yeah, bye.